Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Molly Blankenship, and I'm the Executive Director of Chattanooga 2.0. Chattanooga 2.0's mission is to align our community in policy and practice to make sure that every student in our community has access to education and career opportunities that help them realize their full potential. Our work ultimately will lead up to making sure that we have a more inclusive economy where folks have access to social and economic mobility, and that we can move our community forward, continue to move forward with an inclusive and thriving economy. And we are pulling together partners across this community, organizations across this community every day to implement strategies that we think are going to make a difference for children and students and families, as well as employers. And we bring people together to solve tough problems together. And we do that through action teams, groups of partners, experts in our community that we're pulling together to do this work in tandem collaboration. And one of our core goals and core focus areas is around third grade literacy, third grade reading proficiency, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And so today I have the honor of having Breckan Duckworth on, who is Hamilton County Schools Literacy Officer. Breckan, thank you so much for joining to chat about your work.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so before we dive into the conversation, I was thinking that Hamilton County's had a lot of conversation about third grade reading, a lot of literacy, a lot of communities have. And I thought that I wanted just to start by making sure that folks tuning in know that when we're talking about literacy, we're not just talking about the ability to read, but the ability to read, to speak, to write, to understand and comprehend. Is that right, Breckan? The way we
Yeah,
should be thinking about this?
absolutely. All of those vital skills that we really need to make sure that our students are successful beyond Hamilton County schools. Absolutely, Molly.
Makes sense. And why don't we just start, maybe, if you don't mind, telling us a little bit about why this work, why focusing on third grade literacy or early literacy in general is so important?
Yeah, so it's one of our performance targets that we have in Hamilton County schools. And really, it's that third grade literacy has a lot of data around it. There's a lot of studies that have been done around third grade literacy being an indicator for graduation for high school, as well as success outside of high school. So we know from many studies that students who are proficient at reading in third grade are a lot more likely to graduate from high school. And they're a lot more likely to be successful and happy in the careers in which they choose after high school. And so we're using it as an indicator to really help us make sure that we are on track for our other performance targets that we have around students' scores on the ACT, as well as their algebra scores. It's a really good indicator for us of, are we going in the right direction in those early grades?
Yeah, interesting. It's like a leading indicator of long-term success. Very interesting.
Absolutely.
Since it's obviously so important for our community's long-term success, and since we've had so much discussion about it as a community, I'm curious, Breckan, are there any, what do you think is the most widely misunderstood issue or topic related to this work, early literacy?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So to me, the biggest misunderstanding is that teaching reading is easy. That is not the case. So I think a lot of people think that if I can read really well, then it means that I can teach reading really well. Or if I can read really well, then teachers should be able to teach it really well. But there's actually a lot of cognitive processes going on in the brain for reading that are not natural. They are not innate abilities that we have. We're not born with these things. There are studies that a very small percent of the population can pick up on reading really quick, but it's not anywhere close to the majority. And so I kind of like to think of it as, and I saw a great quote, this is not original by me, that, just because I can sit down and watch all of Game of Thrones does not mean that I can now build a TV or teach someone how to create a TV show. Right. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes of reading that's really difficult. And I think that that's a stigma that we have to break, because I think it's really hard for someone to say I'm not great at teaching reading, because there's this implication of maybe that means I'm not a good reader. Whereas if we look at the other side on math, I think a lot of people feel free to admit, like, I'm not that great at math, so it's not that big of a deal if I'm not a great teacher of math. So it's a really different mindset shift. And we have to understand that there is a huge science of reading. And we're talking about neuroscience and some really hard concepts to actually get our teachers as great reading teachers and our students as great readers. It is hard.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I love the Game of Thrones analogy and behind the scenes. I mean, it is. There's a lot going on that we don't always see or understand. And I think you talking about that, Breckan, just stresses the importance of really high quality teachers who are trained in the science of literacy. It also reminds me, in January, the Tennessee State Legislature passed the Tennessee Literacy Success Act. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is, and whether it's a good thing, what it will mean for our community?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. It's really in line with the direction we're wanting to go in Hamilton County because of exactly what we were just talking about. The bill is really acknowledging that reading is a very hard process with a lot of pieces to it. And so it's going to help support our teachers at the state level for making sure that they're getting the training they need on how to teach foundational literacy skills. And so that bill, yes, I think it's going to be great for moving us forward in Hamilton County and giving us some strength as well as funding, which we'll always take to help us with some of the literacy initiatives we have.
Yeah, funding is no doubt an important piece. Tell us, maybe let's like drill down a level further. Tell us a little bit about what the work actually looks like in Hamilton County schools. Given the passage of that act, what does the work look like on boots on the ground here in Hamilton County?
Absolutely. So there's a huge push, particularly with our pre-K through 2 students, to really amp up the amount of foundational literacy skills that they're receiving, which means that we're doing a lot more professional development for our teachers on how to best teach those foundational reading skills. So that's what I was talking about earlier when I said there's a whole science to reading. It's around those foundational reading skills. And so the bill has provided us with great opportunities to not only train our teachers this summer, like we were planning to do already with foundational literacy skills. They're actually providing us with money to give all of the teachers who sign up for that training a $1,000 stipend for taking this training. But the bill also is requiring that all K-5 teachers have the training by 2023. So in the next couple of years, if they didn't sign up this summer to get the training, they should have it within the school year or next summer. The bill is also, I think Penny Schwinn just tweeted out yesterday that we now have decodable books that are free online or that students can order. So we're getting a lot more resources because of this bill that are going to directly impact our particularly pre-K through grade 3 and 2 reading skills, which is great.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for breaking that down for us. And it's really encouraging to see our state continue to make progress around this important work, even amid a really challenging and emergency-oriented time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Breckan, the last question I have for you this morning is: if there's one message that you could share with the community, community members, parents, you name it, about this work and how we can support early literacy in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, curious what that would be.
Yeah, I think it's as many people as we can get educated on foundational reading skills, which, like I said, it's hard. I saw a recent article say it's a rocket science. It is difficult, but just familiarizing yourself with those things, having lots of conversations with kiddos who are in those ages where they're trying to acquire vocabulary. So if you think about, you have students in 3rd and 4th grade, they've already gotten the basics of phonological awareness. They know they have their print awareness and they're becoming strong readers. Having conversations with kids about what's happening each day so that they're hearing the news and they're acquiring new vocabulary. If you think about it, the more conversations we have with kids, the more we're building their vocabulary. 2 years ago, if there was an article about a pandemic, 3rd graders would have no clue what that article meant or what it was about. But we've all had conversations with them about a pandemic now, and so they can now understand and comprehend that. So once we get past those foundational literacy skills, and that's really strong with our kiddos, just talking to them about as big and a wide variety of topics as possible. And I think, yeah, if we could get that happening across the community in all of our homes, we would be in a much better place.
Thank you, Breckan. Appreciate that. And thank you so much for joining and talking about your work and leading on behalf of children in Hamilton County.
Absolutely. Thank you for your work, Molly.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining. If you want to learn more about Chattanooga 2.0's strategies and efforts related to early literacy or cradle through career education and talent development overall, please do go to www.chat2.org and reach out to us, and we'd love to get you plugged in. Thank you again, Breckan, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks.